Hey friends, my name is Nadine and I recently graduated from the University of Virginia with a bachelor's in neuroscience and on the pre-med track. I actually applied to college 4 years ago, which is a pretty long time. And although this video is like 4 years late, I kind of wanted to put it out there and hope that it helps someone who's applying or who's going to apply. So I'll be talking about my stats, my application process, my extracurriculars, where I applied to, where I got into, and some tidbits of advice from a college grad. So first of all, my stats. I applied with a 4.31 weighted GPA. I actually don't really know what my unweighted GPA was. And for my SAT score, as you can see here, I applied with a 2010 SAT score, so this was back when the SAT was out of 2400, and that is equivalent to a 1330 on the new scale. I also applied with two subject tests, a 630 in chemistry and a 640 in math level 2. I'm gonna be honest, I don't really know why I put those on there. It probably hurt me in some way. I'm not totally sure because they were not great scores. So I applied on the Common App like I'm pretty sure you guys still do. I applied to 26 schools, which is honestly insane. But I'll get more into that. I want to go over my extracurriculars first. So I was really big on community service. So I worked as a volunteer in my local hospital, as a tutor, and I actually spend most of my time in the hospital because I was pre-med. Like, I wanted that to be a huge focus on my application. So I worked as a patient support services volunteer, and all I really did was discharge patients. That was like the main thing there. And I also tutored pediatric patients at another hospital. I also started a Chinese culture club with my friend and participated in the debate team. I only really went to one competition, so it wasn't that big of a commitment. I applied to 26 schools. So, and I ended up getting accepted to 5, so that's like 20% of my list. Which is not totally surprising because a lot of the schools I applied to were big name schools, like Ivy Leagues, like all the Ivy Leagues, all the big ones. And the ones I really got accepted into were more local. So I got into George Washington University, George Mason University, Virginia Tech, Virginia Commonwealth University, which is VCU, University of Virginia, and I got waitlisted at Dartmouth and William & Mary. Kind of like reflecting on that whole process, it was honestly really hectic, and I wish that I had applied to less schools to kind of save myself the disappointment that I would feel later on, because I really was so sad that I didn't get into some of my top schools. But in the end, I feel like it was pretty much meant to be. So, advice that I would give to someone that is currently applying or who is going to apply, I would say that your stats aren't everything. And as you can see from the stats that I showed you, I would say I was an above average student. I wasn't top of the class valedictorian or anything. I would say I was maybe in like the top 30 in my class, which is pretty good, but it wasn't like groundbreaking or anything. And my SAT score, as you can tell, is not great either. I really struggled with the SAT. I took it 3 times, and that score that I showed you was super scored. So all three tests super scored ended up with a 2010, which I was actually really disappointed about. I hoped that I would break a 2100, but it just didn't happen for me. But I would say that those things aren't really important in the grand scheme of things. And also into getting into college. Of course, like the top schools want to see like, 4.0s, 2400s, or like perfect SAT, ACT scores. But there are stories, or there are people out there who get in with less than perfect. So at UVA, I actually got into their honors program, which is pretty known for really smart people. Most of the people I knew there were valedictorians of their high school and got perfect or near perfect SAT scores. I honestly didn't feel like I belonged in that group because, at the time, I didn't feel like I measured up to that level. And I feel like what made me stood out in the application process was not only my extracurriculars, but also my essays. Like, I think my putting effort into my essays really, really helped me in the end. My second piece of advice is that where you end up going doesn't really matter. As long as you put in the work during college, maybe you might have to work harder than some other people at the top schools, but as long as you put in the work, show that you're competent to grad schools and to jobs, they'll take you. I know people who are currently working at Google and Apple, going to Columbia Law School, that, they went to UVA, which is a state school, So as long as you work hard, make the connections that you need to make while you're where you are, take advantage of all the resources, and do well with what you're given, people will see that and reward you for it. My third piece of advice is that when you get to college, I would say get involved in a lot of things, try new things, and get out of your comfort zone. I was a really, really sheltered kid in high school. I pretty much stayed home, read a lot of books. I honestly wasn't really allowed to go anywhere. I didn't have a car. I didn't have that much freedom. But then going into college, it was just crazy for me to like experience this newfound freedom. So I used that to my advantage. I took a lot of different classes I'd never taken before, like Polish language classes, acting classes, a business class. Like, I wanted to see what was out there, and I actually found some things that I was interested in, like anthropology. I also tried out for the rowing team, which is way out there for me. I was never involved in team sports when I was younger or in high school, but I wanted to try it out because they opened it to all of the undergrad classes. And although I didn't make it, I actually made good friends while I was there. So don't be scared to try something new when you're in college, because you just never know what you'll get out of those experiences. And then my fourth piece of advice is to have fun while you're in college. That's just kind of a given. College is a place where you should be learning about not only your field of study, but then also yourself. And I think that was the most fun that I had ever had up to like this point in my life. And just experiencing all the new things that college had to offer was just amazing. So I wish all of you the best of luck, whether you're applying or about to apply, and hope that you get into wherever you want to go.